Hello and welcome. I hope you're doing well from wherever it is you're joining us. The purpose of the Federal Reserve is to achieve maximum employment and stable prices. This is called the Fed's dual mandate. In an ideal world, the economy would have minimal inflation and everybody would have a job. However, that is not always the case. Okay, but how do the Fed monetary policy actions affect the economy? This is the goal of this module. We will look at connections between monetary policy actions that bring about changes in the most important macroeconomic outcomes. We will also discuss how these changes happen. We will start with the idea of maximum employment. While the dual mandate is stated in terms of jobs, many central banks, including the Federal Reserve, talk a lot about economic growth. To explain why, we will first study the relationship between gross domestic product, or GDP, and unemployment. We will then see how decreases in the Fed's target interest rate can increase GDP and therefore decrease unemployment. As part of this discussion, we will see what the goal of maximum employment means in the context of the United States. Next, we will study the link between unemployment, wages, and inflation. We will see that there is a trade-off between unemployment and inflation. By easing monetary policy, a central bank can lower unemployment, at least in the short run, but this may come at the cost of higher inflation. This trade-off between unemployment and inflation is central to decision-making at the Federal Reserve. We will see how this trade-off is embedded in the monetary policy rules, such as the celebrated Taylor rule. These rules dictate exactly how interest rates should be set depending on the state of the economy. With this trade-off between inflation and unemployment in mind, we will then study how monetary policy works. That is, through which channels do changes in the interest rate affect economic growth and thereby inflation and unemployment. We start with a high-level overview that shows you the effects of monetary policy on the economy as a whole. We then drill down on how monetary policy affects credit supply by banks and therefore money supply in the economy. The next lesson discusses how monetary policy affects firms and households, which in turn affects investments and consumption decisions. Both consumption and investment are part of the GDP, and these decisions are going to affect unemployment. Monetary policy can mitigate harmful boom and busts in the economic cycle by raising the interest rates during expansions and reducing the interest rate during contractions. This is what central banks hope to achieve. The last two lessons are case studies that illustrates the limits of monetary policy. We will see that monetary policy can do little to offset supply-side shocks, such as spikes in oil prices. It cannot do much to support employment in industries that are in permanent decline due to structural changes in the economic environment. In sum, the previous module discussed which monetary policy tools are available to central banks and how they are affecting the interest rates. In this module, we look at how interest rate changes affect the economy and how this helps the Federal Reserve to achieve its dual mandate of stable prices and maximum employment.